and would not use that term in describing the attack. So that is a very significant disconnect. Megan, back to you.
Especially given the fact that at that second presidential debate, the president tried to maintain that he had identified this and called it terror from day one. Catherine Herridge, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
A little more than an hour ago, I sat down with Congressman Pete King. He's chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, and he's also on the House Intel Committee, about what he heard from General Petraeus and all those intel leaders that he sat down with yesterday, and here is part of that. I want to start with General Petraeus. His testimony before you this morning, he now says he and the CIA knew this was terrorism from the beginning.
General Petraeus said that when he came to the committee back on Friday, September 14th, he had then told us that he thought it was a terrorist attack, and the CIA had believed that. He said there were different streams coming in, but they definitely believed it was a terrorist attack. And again, I have a great regard for General Petraeus. I emphasized that today, but I told him I had a very different recollection of what he told us on September 14th. He barely mentioned terrorism at that time. He de-emphasized it. He emphasized the video. He emphasized the spontaneous demonstration. And as far as the terrorist questions, he really minimized it totally. Also on the talking points, Megan, which came from the CIA, the ones that the famous talking points that supposedly Susan Rice relied on, they said today the talking points that came from the CIA specifically mentioned al-Qaeda and that al-Qaeda was involved in the attack. They left the CIA, went through a whole process, which I believe included the White House, and when the talking points were finalized, all the references to al-Qaeda were taken out, and it was put in almost as an afterthought, saying there are indications of extremist involvement in the demonstration. Nothing about the attack, nothing about al-Qaeda, nothing about that they were definite that al-Qaeda was involved. So to me, a question right now is who changed those talking points and why?
That is the big question at this hour. Who changed those talking points and why? Now, having spoken to the Director of National Intelligence, the acting director of the CIA, the now former director of the CIA, all within the past 24 hours, were any of those people able to satisfactorily answer that for you?
No, they say to this day they don't know. They say there's a long process, an interagency process. The expression they use is that when it left the building, meaning the CIA, when it left the building, the reference to al-Qaeda was in there. When it came back, it was taken out. Indicated it went to the Department of Justice, it went to the State Department, apparently it went to the National Security Council, it went to public information offices, it went to, they call it, a deputies meeting, and somewhere along that line, that was taken out. And that, so it really changed the whole tone of it.
Mr. Chairman, that's unbelievable to me, that you have all these officials on something this important, and no one has been able to tell you, the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, or any of these other lawmakers on Capitol Hill, who removed the al-Qaeda references from the talking points that would be delivered to the American people. There's been no accountability by these folks who answer to us, we the people, through you, our representatives?
Right. And I agree with you completely, especially since the president and the vice president, the administration, have hidden behind the fact all along that Susan Rice only said on the TV programs what she was told was the best estimate of the intelligence community. Well, the fact is the best estimate of the intelligence community on September 15th and 16th was that there was direct al-Qaeda involvement. That was taken out. And to me, again, if I had to presume, I'd say it was somebody in the administration had to have taken it out, because there was nobody in the Director of National Intelligence Office, nobody in the CIA that did it. So it was someone else that did it. And I doubt if the State Department or the Defense Department or the Justice Department would be involved in taking that out. But again, we'll have to find out. That, to me, has to be pursued.
Joining me now, Ambassador John Bolton, former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and a Fox News contributor. And that full interview with Pete King, in which a lot more news is made, is going to air today at 2:30. Ambassador, your thoughts in reaction to Mr. Chairman Pete King's statement right there?
Well, I think he's put his finger on the key issue, and I think General Petraeus's testimony today has really put this dead cat right on the White House's doorstep. I don't think there's any doubt, at least as a working hypothesis, maybe not a firm conclusion, but as a working hypothesis, that the only entity in Washington that believed in the demonstration gone out of control theory was the White House. General Petraeus this morning said that he knew within 24 hours it was a terrorist attack. He says he was trying to convey that position in his congressional testimony of September the 14th. He apparently didn't. But the key point is he thought that he was being consistent. And then somehow, between then and the time that White House spokesman Carney speaks to the press on the 14th and Susan Rice goes on television on the 16th, it goes 180 degrees away from the notion of a terrorist attack toward the demonstration out of control theory. In an interagency process, let me just say this, because I'm sure most people say interagency, what are they talking about? For a theory to get advanced and end up as the conclusion, some agency has to be pushing it. And I think Congressman King put it very well. There's no reason to think the Justice Department or Homeland Security or anybody has anything invested in the demonstration out of control theory. There's only one entity. It's the White House.
The point I was asking Chairman King about is, and you tell me, is it incredible to you that we have these hearings on Capitol Hill that involve the top intelligence officials in the country? You can't get any higher, short of President Obama, speaking to the chairman of committees on the House and the Senate side, and they cannot tell our lawmakers who took out the references to Al-Qaeda from the information that would be shared with us?
It's perfectly sensible. It's perfectly sensible if you accept the working hypothesis that it was the White House. So this interagency process bubbles along, and they have countless meetings and endless drafts of the talking points, and then it goes to the White House because it's the White House designee who's going to appear on the Sunday shows. And it's at the White House that they draft the final talking points for Susan Rice or Person X to give. And that's where the changes were made. At least, unless there's evidence to the contrary, that's the only explanation, and it's perfectly consistent with why the top intelligence officials, the Secretary of State, anybody else you can think of, doesn't have a clue who wrote those final words.
Mm-hmm. Pete King says that they changed, not only did they take out the line that was blaming this on Al-Qaeda, but they changed it to there are just indications of extremist elements. He says that was a downplay. That was an attempt to say, you know, there's just some indications that some extremist elements we don't yet understand may have a role in this. Ambassador, I know we've talked about it before, but our viewers may be confused. Why? What would be the motivation for downplaying Al-Qaeda's role in a terror attack in Libya?
Well, I think there are two possible explanations. One is ideology. You know, the war on terror is over. Al-Qaeda's been defeated. The Arab Spring has brought democracy to Libya. This can't possibly be a terrorist attack. That's one. The other is that it's just politically very inconvenient, less than 2 months away from an election, to have a terrorist attack that will expose the errors and fallacies of the Obama administration's policies. That's why they were so worried under that theory about admitting that, in fact, this was Al-Qaeda or another terrorist group.
Some Democrats who were privy to these same briefings, including Representative Adam Smith, come out and say that the notion that the talking points were changed is completely wrong. So still, we get diametrically opposing information. Ambassador, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Again, ahead, we will have more of our interview with Congressman Pete King. Plus, we will speak with the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations about what is looking like a possible ground war in Gaza. Stay with us.